what is Kanban and how can it help workplace productivity or effectiveness? So let's start with what is Kanban. So Kanban is a lens that you can put on the way you're working right now and see where the improvements need to happen. So if you like, it provides you that ability to see. Now, when you're working with physical goods, this ability may be, well, yeah, it's good to see, but we can already see, we can see. But when it comes to knowledge and creative work, you cannot see the work. So we need to have a token that represents the work. And that allows us to see where the work, what the work is. But that's not enough, because we also need to see where the work is. And that's where we need to look at the workflow. In other words, what are the key steps that a work goes from it coming in, a request coming in, to it being fulfilled? What are those key steps? Could be things like we need to understand, we need to develop and test it, we need to verify it, we need to deliver it to the customer, we need to then measure the impact of that. You know, okay, we gave it to the customer, what's the impact? Are we getting profits? Are our revenues growing? Is it shrinking? So that would be a kind of, if you like, the workflow, and then you can show and visualize a token that represents the actual work on where it is on its workflow steps. So far, we built a visual system. We still don't have a Kanban system, because a Kanban system must have a way of controlling the number of work items that enter the system. Because otherwise, work is just being pushed into the system. We start as many things as they arrive, and we don't necessarily finish as many things. So we need to have a way of controlling or limiting the number of pieces of work that are in flight. Now, whatever control system we put in, that is where now we've turned it into just a visual board into a Kanban system. Because a Kanban system says from the moment we start work till the moment we finish work, the number of tokens or items in progress are limited by whatever that number is. So a question that people ask is, what should that number be? Well, you can do, there are various ways you can do it. One way is very simple. Just start where you are now. Whatever number you have in flight, you just say, we are not going to add any more. That's it. So that, if you like, it's con width or constant width. So if you've got 200 pieces in flight right now, it's not going to go to 201. We need to get one out before we get one in. Then the next thing you need to look at is, well, we got 200 pieces of work in flight, but it takes us 202 days to finish one of them. Are we happy with that? Maybe you are, maybe you're not. 202 days may be too long. So we say, okay, how can we impact the number of days that it takes for us to finish a piece of work? And we know there is a relationship between the number of work items in progress and how long it takes to complete them. If you like, think of it in simple terms. The more we multitasking and task switching between one piece of work and another, the less likely it is that we're focusing on one thing and getting it over the line. So then we say, okay, now, if we want to reduce the time it takes for us to finish a work item, we need to start reducing this width. 200 is a bit too high. What should it be? You can experiment and get to the right level. If you want it to be a little bit more scientifically, you can look at the arrival and the departure rate that work arrives and departs, and then how long it takes for you to process it. And then you want to match those rates. Now, With knowledge work, again, there's big variation. So you may want to build a bit of buffer. So you say, okay, well, it looks like we get 200 requests an hour and we can do about 20 an hour. So if we start to get more work than 20 an hour, we're increasing the wait time. So let's go for 20 or 25, and we say that's a good WIP to have, and then work on that. So in Kanban systems, for knowledge work, we need a token that represents the work. We need to understand the key steps that the work goes through, from it coming in to it being fulfilled and delivering impact to the customer and to us as an organization. Once we've done those things, we can then see how the work is flowing through those steps. And what we will see, if you just visualize that, you will see that work naturally piles up somewhere. When it piles up, typically it means the next step is less capable of fulfilling work than the rate that work is arriving at it. So what the Kanban system provides us to do, the next thing, is to have purposeful change. So, okay, if this is happening, how can we make sure that we don't overwhelm the next step? We don't get so much work in there that is stressing people. So we then have techniques, again, for creating a buffer, which is an intentional queue, if you like, that we're building before the next step, and say, well, we cannot have more than whatever the processing rates in there. So that's another way to limit the work in progress. So that's what a Kanban system does. Visualizes the work, visualizes the workflow that the work goes through, and it allows us to improve the way that we work. So Kanban method is both a way of visualizing, managing, and improving the way we work. In other words, putting a lens on our current system of work. It's also a change management approach, which is all about, if you like, a humane approach to change, which is we start with where you are now. We acknowledge the successes that you've had, and then we take iterative but small steps at high frequency and keep improving the system of work to achieve better outcomes rather than big revolutionary change. So rather than changing everything overnight, we take steps one at a time. We initially respect the roles and titles that you have. We take an evolutionary approach to change. Evolutionary, not in terms of biology. We're not talking about millions of years for things to evolve. We're talking about small steps taken at high frequency. Little and often will lead into a better change. And then we agree that leadership can happen at any step. So leadership is an act, is not necessarily a role. I'd love to work with your organization and make sure you are also achieving results that I have achieved with other organizations. Want to learn more? Look up www.valueglide.com or link with me on any of my social media channels.